All right, we're going to call the meeting to order tonight, and of the Exeter Planning Board of Thursday, December 16th, 7 o'clock, and we are in the Wentworth room this evening. A little cozier than upstairs, because there's another meeting up there. So I'd like to start with introduction of members of the board tonight, and you take my little list here. So I'm Lang Plummer. I'm chairman of the Exeter Planning Board. I'm going to refer over to Mark and start on that side of the room.
Mark D4, alternate.
Molly Cowan, select board rep. Jennifer Martell.
Pete?
Who are you?
I thought I introduced myself when we
Steve
started out.
Cameron, clerk.
Good, thank you.
Nancy Belanger, alternate.
Okay, now I need to have both alternates, Nancy and Mark, act tonight, because we have space for you to help with our decision making. And Dave Sharples, our town planner, is with us tonight. Okay, first order of business is the minutes of December 9th, our last meeting. And so the table's open to, or the chair is open to have those discussed and acted upon.
I have one amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Go ahead.
Third to the bottom on page 1, it says Ms. Cowan motion to approve the November 18, 2021 minutes, and that would have been me, Ms. Belanger.
Wait a minute, you on the first page?
What number?
Yep, page 107,
Page
What
one.
number?
paragraph third up from the bottom.
Don't you have the numbers?
Oh, sorry, you're right, 31.
Thank you.
I thought that's where you were.
Yeah,
Now you said,
it says Ms. Cowan motion to approve, and it was actually me.
okay,
That's it, that's all I have.
okay. Any others? Keith or
No,
Mark or Holly?
where's my copy with my, I don't think I had any.
Okay,
I mean, we could have, there were pieces that could have been changed, but I don't think that at this point in time, it's
Well, again, it's-
not appropriate.
it's a matter of correction, not changing. Yes.
So I'll
Sharples
move,
reminds us frequently.
I'm sorry, ladies, I didn't hear down there whether you had things to go, because I was gonna move.
I have nothing.
Molly?
Nope.
Well, I'll move, Mark, I'm
Nope,
sorry.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here, so.
Okay, well, good.
I'll move,
Okay, second.
I'll second,
That's the minutes as presented.
yes.
Yes, okay. Moved and
with one
seconded.
amendment, though.
Yes, with the
Oh,
amendment
yes, with one change, I should say.
that Nancy mentioned.
Okay. So those in favor, let's see. It's going to be a voice vote, so if you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Mark?
Yes.
Mark is abstaining. Okay, thank you very much. Next order of business. Continued public hearing on application of ZV Investments LLC for multifamily site plan review and proposed conversion of structures located at 50 Newfields Road into 4 residential condominium units. Subject property is located in the RU Rural Residential Zoning District, tax map parcel 35-9, and planning board case number 2110. Dave, do you have some comments or anything to start off with?
Well, just one, I think the main reason that I heard last time that the planning board tabled it was to determine if the dry cleaner, the prior use as a dry cleaner was a pickup drop-off only, or actual dry cleaning processes were taking place on the property. I did receive an email from a resident stating that they were there. I think they mentioned they contacted you as well, Lang, live next door or something like that, and said that it was an actual dry cleaner, and they did dry cleaning on site. I did forward that email to Mr. Geyer, that represents the applicant, and he wrote back that that's what the applicant found as well. I think you discussed other things like, the septic and so forth, but I don't know if anything was outstanding with those issues. And then Mr. Geyer was right about the water well not needing a CUP. you can develop a water well within the wetlands buffer and not trigger a conditional use permit. So the application is, it's just where it is without, that one question.
Okay.
I think the board had.
Well, I think we've done just about everything else we were gonna do. And that was, to my mind, was the only question to come tonight.
Pretty much so, yes.
Am I out of, would I say that? Am I out of school? Well, I think that's what,
You're in the meeting.
no. I am out of school.
That was my understanding too, Mr. Cameron.
I mean, there's always other things that might be discussed, but yes. Yep. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Barry Geyer. I'm with Jones Beach Engineers here for the applicant. As Mr. Sharples noted, since the last meeting, the applicant did determine that the outbuilding was utilized as a dry cleaner and completed dry cleaning on site. The applicant also has had the on-site water tested this past week and found that all the parameters tested are within the regulatory limits, which seemed to be the reason that the board was discussing the phase one. The applicant continues to be of the opinion that an environmental study should not be a condition of approval, as it is the applicant's opinion that the board cannot deny the project based upon the results of the environmental study. So that's where we are tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
May I ask if did you determine what year we were talking about for this?
He did, and I cannot recall.
So no one can really recall.
But no, they do know, because he did talk, the applicant spoke with the prior owners that actually ran it, or their father, I believe, ran it.
Yes.
And I believe it ran until, I think he said 70-something, in the mid-70s, but it could have been even later than that.
So basically, it's been a fair period of time before any activity of that nature has occurred there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because the church was in there and there's some other group before then, and
Yep.
I think the new room cleaners, if you look at it, that's clearly a 60, 70 building, just so you would see in Papa Mechanics. It sits there today with the yellow and the slanted front. So, I don't know what the other time. Did you happen to discuss how the cleaning was done there? I mean, did they use, how was it done? I mean, you wash clothes, you put in the machine, turn on the water, and
They used whatever the dry cleaning chemical is, and to clean the yeah. But the people who had utilized it as a dry cleaning, that family had lived there for a very long time, multiple generations evidently.
yes.
And so they didn't believe it was, they didn't believe it was any issue, because they had lived there for X amount of years, and it never had been an issue.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
Where would the water have been discharged to? Into the gray water area, right?
That I have no, I'm not a dry cleaner, I don't know anything about it.
No, I know, but when you have your water in a well, right? It's not being discharged back into the towns.
I know we're not on town sewer in that area.
Right,
But
okay.
I'm not certain that dry cleaning actually discharges water.
Okay.
I think that's why it's called dry cleaning. They use chemicals to dry, or to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there had to be some, okay. I would think there's some kind of cleaning process of it, but.
Well, it in part depends on what's there. If, for instance, you take a shirt in and have it washed.
That part would, right, but what I'm saying is, so even if you use a chemical process to clean the clothes, wouldn't the machinery be cleaned out and at some point cleaned and the water would have gone somewhere? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Well,
I've never
I don't
worked in a
think-
dry cleaner.
I don't think any of us really know.
Okay.
I don't know what the methods were. The technology
Right.
was today.
So it makes me wonder,
Now I'm sure it's regulated in some fashion.
right, but not that.
Yeah, states involved now, yeah. Any other questions over on this side of the, or concerns?
Is this project triggering any state review or their
Yeah,
zero
we'll,
alteration of terrain?
no, but we will ever be required to have a state subdivision approval and a septic approval.
That's for the septic,
Yeah.
Correct.
septic design.
For
But
the
it's-
subdivision approval, do they look at soils?
They looked at,
They look,
they look at the
Like the
septic-
legal boundaries?
Septic design.
well, no,
Right.
for the state subdivision, they look at the capacity of the site to contain the septic that's being discharged.
Okay.
And then that's one permit, state subdivision, because the condo is a form of subdivision, as you know. And then we have a septic system requirement as well. The state subdivision, you have to follow all the state permit requirements, which means you have to get the wildlife review, the NHB review, the historical review. So all of that takes place at the same time.
Okay. I guess my question really, what I was leading to is, would there, you were telling us that the applicant doesn't believe that the planning board can deny the case based on a past use. Will the state be looking at past uses and potential soil contamination or anything like that as part of those reviews?
I do not believe that is the case.
I just wish we had an idea of how they did it back then, because I'm not comfortable yet knowing if there's,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
none of us are experts at dry cleaning. The only thing we really have to rely on at that point would be the soil test. Am I correct in that assumption? I mean,
Based on my ignorance, yes.
because unless we can bring in a dry cleaning expert to explain what they did in the 70s, I don't believe we can actually even guess or try and figure out what they did back then, because we will never know.
And I think the passage of time is telling me something here.
Yes, I would think so.
That if we're back in the 70s, or maybe even perhaps into the early 80s, that's running 40 years or
40
more
years, yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And it does seem to me that whatever there might have been is largely gone.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
What you're shaking.
I've dealt with, I don't know what's at the site, and I explained that at the last meeting. It depends on, what's underground, but it can last 10 years, it can last hundreds of years. So you don't know. I'm not saying it, you can't just say, oh, it was the 80s, it's fine. Yeah, I dealt with the cleaners.
So the passage of
I
time-
dealt with the cleaners, it's just getting cleaned up now. That was in the 50s, so.
Yeah.
That still has contamination popping up on the wells. Not saying this is even contaminated. We don't even know that. I don't think that we should jump to conclusions and say it is. It's just,
I guess the position of the applicant is under what provision of the site plan or zoning regulations could you deny this even if it was contaminated? They absolutely do not believe it is.
Well, we don't want to be hauled into court. We don't want the developer to be hauled into court after he's built this thing, has to tear it down and replace housing for all those people and pay the town back and do all the work.
well, let's back up here just for a second. Because we're talking about denying a project. I've never heard anybody propose denying a
No,
project. So let's just take it one stage,
Yeah,
step at a time.
We're trying to be comfortable with what's there.
But I mean, this is not going to be a denial.
Yeah, not that I've never heard that, so.
Yeah, no, I don't believe the board was ever talking last time we met
Right,
with respect to a denial.
right.
We were learning to crawl before we even learned to walk, let alone run. And I have to say that I was one who was most concerned the last time. And I'm now less concerned to tell the board. I am not sure that starting a process here it's not going to lead to a denial in any event. I don't believe, but maybe I'm wrong. And I am now of the opinion that I think we should proceed forward to not have what we'll call it a stage one or a class one or whatever the thing whatever the process we were talking about last time.
Phase 1A, I think.
Whatever
was
it is.
mentioned by Jen Mates. Phase 1A environmental assessment.
Well, again, I think that the rest of the board needs to make its views known on this particular, just this narrow, very narrow subject. You know, am I off base here, Dave?
You can do whatever.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just asking you whether this is a process that, A, we've engaged in before. I don't recall.
Generally, we always ask for the studies that have been done or ask the question at the TRC.
But we've never directed.
And a lot of the applicants that have, they do them because of their own due diligence and funding and so forth. So they provide them. I don't think we haven't been in a situation exactly like this, no.
No.
We've been in situations where people have done the phase ones and provided them to us because they do them as part of their due diligence. We ask them if there are any known environmental hazards and what studies have been done and any copies of any studies, so they provide them for us. So this is a new, we haven't been in this position before,
My discomfort is how.
that I'm aware of.
My discomfort, Pete, is how that process happened back in the day. And I think my request would be to see if there must be an expert, or somebody with experience, another clean person in the cleaning business in town, that's, can explain how it was done there, what processes are used, what was, I'll say, dumped, if it was dumped, or wasn't dumped, or what, we just don't know those answers, and we're not a chemist. And I don't want to jump to say, well, okay, you can't give us that answer, we're going to go to 1A. I think you probably could come up with, I'll call it expert witness. I mean, years ago, we had questions about much noise, and we had Mr. Sicard come in and gave us a whole rundown on sound levels. This was to do with Riverwoods and the air conditioning units there. So we learned out what birds hear and what birds make that kind of noise. He was the expert. So I think, my call is to an expert. And, there's got to be experienced people, and I don't think we need a
So,
high-paid chemist to come in.
but I think, an expert witness,
Yeah.
as you say, could only say, well, this is, if the industry wasn't regulated back in the 70s, which is my understanding,
Okay.
the expert witness can't tell you what happened at this site.
Right.
No.
They can only tell you what may have happened,
But
What
they
should
can
have
tell us
happened.
what.
or what should, or what could have happened.
That's true, but they could tell what the method of the day was.
For dry cleaning,
Yes.
but probably not for disposing the chemicals.
Right out back and flop it in the air. I don't know.
That's, unfortunately, I mean, anecdotally, that's what I've heard kind of happened, is,
Well,
you
so anyway.
talk about the back window. So,
Have we seen the soil, I apologize, have you submitted the results of the soil tests? Or did you said you had there was no?
No, there, except for test pits that were dug for the septic system, which wouldn't have shown any, or
Okay, so there
we're
hasn't
not
been any soil
qualified to
testing
look
done.
for that.
you said there was water testing.
Oh, water, I
Oh,
apologize,
yes.
I'm sorry, okay.
And the water test was from the existing well.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so that's been there quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a little more comfortable, but I still don't know how they did it.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think the answer is easy to get. We have cleaners in town. There must be, the board that regulates, but I don't know what the current state operation knows about what happened back in the 50s and 60s in terms of dry cleaning. I have no idea. I know we took pros there and picked them up.
Okay,
Dave, Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to ask a process question.
Yep.
Okay?
It's called the environmental, I don't know, I forgot the term, the 1A.
Yes.
So if that happened, there would be, if there's something found, then it would be up to the owner of the property to do any remedial things to it, right?
You
But
think so?
without that 1A, we wouldn't know if there's any problem. So, to me, logically, the next step is having that done. Because how else would we know if there's a problem? Maybe I don't know, but that's where my thoughts going.
Well, that's kind of why, if I now have some idea how they did it, then I can make a better judgment in terms of whether there may be a real problem there or
Yeah,
not.
I'm kind of with Jen on that one. I think that they could tell us what the standard practice might have been back then,
Yeah.
and maybe what chemicals were available and maybe used back then, but
Yeah.
we still don't know about that piece of land itself. We wouldn't know that. We could take that information and maybe
Yeah.
formulate a more informed opinion, but other than that, I don't know. Knowing that there are chemicals used as a process on that property makes me uncomfortable to just kind of, I believe our last meeting, it was said that if there's a problem down the road, whoever owns it at the time would have to deal with it. Or something to that effect. And that made me a little uncomfortable too. I think that we're in a position to make sure that doesn't happen.
Any other thoughts?
I was just looking at what a phase 1 environmental assessment is.
Oh, okay.
Doing a little Googling.
Quick little research.
Because I wasn't sure exactly what we would get, what information would we
What
get.
would we
But
ask?
it's-
What
so
would we be asking? Yeah.
This website says that the standards for conducting the assessment has been developed by the American Society of Testing Materials, so ASTM, so there is a standard.
Yeah.
It must be conducted according to standard practice. Environmental site assessments are usually conducted in phases. For some properties, it may be appropriate to begin with a desktop review of environmental databases to determine if there's been any documented releases of oil or materials, or whether underground storage tanks are present. That's not an issue. More commonly, phase 1 assessment is conducted by means of an initial site walkover, review of the site history, and interviews with local officials. The site walkover is an important task to evaluate property-specific conditions. And then if it reveals that the property has a history of chemical use, environmental problems, or underground storage tanks, then a phase 2 subsurface investigation should be conducted. A phase 2 study should be tailored to the site-specific conditions and to the requirements of the client's risk management objectives. A phase 2 environmental site assessment investigation may include test pits, soil borings, the installation of groundwater monitoring wells, environmental sampling analyses, and geophysical surveys.
Yeah. That's a heavy duty, yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, that's,
I don't know, I was looking just, the
Yeah.
other thing I was looking at is, our site and subdivision regulations, section 8.4, oops, I just lost it. Does say the land, land unsuitable for development due to the presence of poorly drained soils, flood hazards, steep slopes, or other conditions constituting a danger to health, safety, or the environment shall not be approved for development unless the applicant can present satisfactory evidence or data to the board establishing the methods which will be used to overcome such conditions. So, I think that it just seems like, to me, the information presented so far is that there's this historic use that could have led to contamination of the soil, but we just don't know. And by not being certain, we really can't say that the site will be safe for people to live on.
mhm.
And That is a concern to me.
Yeah,
I would really like to know that
Yeah, that's-
information.
that's kind of where I'm at. It certainly isn't a super site, you know, anything like that. That would have been found by now.
Superfund set?
You know, like down in Blastow, you had barrels and barrels of stuff. But, good question though, are there any known underground tanks on the site?
No, there aren't.
Okay. Has that been declared in the process of passing papers?
Yes.
Okay. I know you have to do that now, so, yeah. Okay, so that eliminates, in my mind, that's okay, that eliminates that possibility. Any other thoughts, Mark, or
Well, I mean, is
Molly?
your client willing to do an environmental test on the soil?
Well-
In order to see if this is safe for residents?
I think we have to determine, the board has to determine what they're gonna ask, because we were talking originally about a Phase 1A, which does not include testing.
Mhm.
So if the board is gonna ratchet it up to a Phase 2, or,
I think the Phase 1A, I mean, it's pretty clear that I mean, the question's already answered, that we know that there's been hazardous materials.
but it goes more
Yeah.
into whether any known discharges.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can have a gas station that's clean.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you can't just say every gas station, you know, has contaminants. Yeah, I mean, every home has contaminants in it,
Right.
yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's dirty.
That's why it goes in stages.
So,
They
let me
do.
ask this question, are there any known discharges kicking around the property? I mean, we
Ye-
didn't walk the whole property, but,
He has not completed a Phase 1, so I can't
yeah, okay.
answer that.
Well, based on what you read, it sounds like Phase 1 is more of a site walk kind of activity with experts that know what they're looking for to determine if that really seems to be a potential problem. To me, that seems like that's the solution, Pete.
That
Don't
would be
like
the
it.
next step. The first step, I should say, in this issue.
Mr. Chair, a site walk by who? By us?
No,
No.
by the,
Someone who does environmental.
I was like, wait, we've already.
There's, yeah, there's several environmental firms that conduct these on a regular
Okay, I'm on board.
basis.
Or like, you know.
This is the first time I've ever done this kind
Yeah.
of case for.
Well, it's like a wetland review, you
Got
get a
it,
wetland
okay.
scientist in it, yeah. And I don't know if they involve, in those cases, you usually attend those meetings with wetland reviews? I mean,
Well,
you assist it,
Yeah, I mean, if in third party,
Yes.
if we hire a third party to review something.
yes,
You know, in the third party review, our third party review scientist meets with their wetland scientist. I
Yes.
usually attend those.
so
But
both
I don't
parties,
see that
yeah,
here. I mean, I think it's just one step at a time. I think the
Right.
board needs to determine whether they're
yeah,
comfortable with moving forward and acting on the application or requiring additional information, such as a, Phase 1 environmental assessment. And then board should decide that, and then the applicant can go from there and respond to that accordingly.
Now, if we were to ask for a 1A assessment, I think you are asking the board to give you some idea of what the board is looking for? Or did I misunderstand?
Yeah, because there are different
Because otherwise
levels of
you're-
environmental
you're-
studies, so,
I think what I'm hearing, I think it's limited to, because you gotta have a reasonable expectation,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
of something. And this is a known dry cleaning processing, so it would be limited to, that's what I would think, that's what I'm hearing is,
Yes.
any assessment, we would look at, the dry cleaning process and be limited to what, if any, potential contamination from that dry cleaning, historic dry cleaning use.
that's it, that's it right on the head, yep.
well, the way the Phase 1 works is just like you read. They basically look at at any information that's out there currently about what occurred on site, what the state has for records regarding that as well, and the town. They typically talk to the fire department, the police department, any of those
Yep.
town to see if there was ever any discharge or known, because the fire department could say there was a fire, the whole place burnt down, in 1930, and then you could say, well, then the chemicals may have been released at that time. So if after that, they call it the desktop review, if they find anything that appears to be, that says a release was in the past, then they know. And if not, then they'll also do a site walk to see if there's anything obvious.
Yeah.
If there's drums in the woods, obviously, things of that nature. But that's the extent of the Phase 1A.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming we would get some kind of report
Oh, they'll-
with recommendations
yes,
for
yes.
next steps.
Correct,
Like-
if they're,
Like, if the report, I don't know, the report might kind of guide, the applicant and the planning board on how to proceed at that point. So we can't really predict
Exactly,
yeah.
what it's gonna
Hey,
say.
you're not advising to more than that, are you?
no, I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
making sure that we're all on the same page about what you're
Oh,
gonna request from the applicant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no testing, at that, it's more or less an examination to, is further study required?
Right.
And they give a recommendation whether it's done, they don't recommend
what
any
we
further
found.
study, or they do.
Yeah.
So who knows what the report will say.
The executive summary. Yeah. I think we agree on the parameters. So, does anybody like to make a motion to ask the applicant to?
Does that need to be something we
I
vote
don't
on, or is
I
that?
think it could be a consensus, it's not something you
Consensus is
usually
fine.
vote on when you,
I'm happy with the consensus.
I don't think you usually vote on stuff, analogous, a study or,
Yeah.
hydrogeologic study or some of the study, I don't think maybe you have, but.
No, this board worked well with consensus.
Yeah.
If it's necessary to take it to a vote, then we'll put it in a motion format, but, so I'm sensing that we have consensus pretty much. Okay. So I think that's where we are tonight.
Duly noted. I don't know, it'll take probably a month to obtain this at probably the earliest.
So Dave, would it be best if we table to a date certain, but maybe?
Yeah, it's up to them, we can always table it to a date certain that,
maybe like-
you possibly could be here, because then we could just table it again at that meeting.
Exactly.
So I would err on the earlier side.
So like mid-January?
Well, there's the, I think it's the
13th
13th and the
or
27th in January.
Yeah.
13th would be at least.
Yeah, do the
Then I can let you guys
13th.
know.
Okay.
Well, that's the
The
next
13th.
meeting anyway, because
Thursday.
we've had 2 meetings this week. 2 meetings this month already because
Okay.
of Christmas, so. That would be the next planning
Well,
board meeting.
we are also hitting the Christmas season, which may delay a little bit, but we'll start with the 13th, that's fine, we can always, no. So,
Yeah. January 13th, 2022 at
Move to
7
table.
p.m.
move to table, yeah,
I'll second.
to
Well, we, to the
January 13th.
January 13th at 7 o'clock.
7 PM, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We have it,
Thank you very much.
we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday season.
Yes,
As well.
you're welcome to have, a Lindt chocolate here.
I'm
That's
good,
part of my
thank
portfolio.
you.
Nobody comes to visit me, so
In
I'm not
fact,
that old though.
In fact, that's required.
I have to get my dinner first.
Well, I always say put it in your pocket, it'll get a little soft there.
Well, 'cause that'll end up in the washing machine.
Okay, any master plan discussion?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any field modifications?
None requested.
None requested.
Or bond release.
Bond or letter of credits requested.
Nope.
Anybody interested in a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it or third it or whatever.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you coming here and being cozy in this
Happy
room.
holiday.